What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Anoncast. Episode 2 is upon us. On this week's episode, I'll be speaking with Alex Londos. Alex is a freelance journalist and the owner of Advanced Disaster Relief. But before we get started, it has been a big week for Anonymous, being in the news several times. Was Anonymous responsible for the technical errors which brought trading to a halt on Wednesday? Around midnight, Uranon News tweeted, "Wonder if tomorrow is going to be a bad day for Wall Street? We can only hope." Representatives of the stock exchange released a statement denying it was a cyber attack, claiming that it was an internal technical issue. Anonymous in the news again this week. A University of Copenhagen grad student conducted an analysis of over 2,700 anonymous Facebook pages, to the conclusion that the current anonymous collective has an approximate size of 22.2 million. He also stated that this is an absolute minimal size of the entire global anonymous network. Also in the news this week, AnonOps India has taken down the website of telecommunications company BSNL. AnonOps India left a message and a series of demands for the Indian government to take action against a number of corporations whose practices violate the privacy of their users and who stand in the way of net neutrality. AnonOps India has stated that over 30 million user records were compromised during the breach. This week's episode is sponsored by Sedition Shirts. Sedition Shirts is a brand new shirt company and they're looking for new artists and new designs. Head over to seditionshirts.com, read a little bit about the company, and if you feel like submitting a design, they'll pay you a percentage on every shirt sold, not just a one-time $50 or $100 fee for a design. They'll pay you a percentage of every shirt sold on your design. Are you angry at the state of the world and want everyone to know? Seditionshirts.com. This week I had the opportunity to speak with Alex Londos. Alex is a freelance photojournalist and the owner of Advanced Disaster Relief. Advanced Disaster Relief is a humanitarian company that specializes in emergency management, search and rescue, body recovery, incident command system logistics, medical first aid, as well as the distribution of international survival kits to victims in the aftermath of some of the world's disasters before additional help and resources arrive. Without further ado, Alex Londos. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today I am on the phone with Alex Londos from Santa Cruz, California. Alex is a freelance journalist and he also is the owner of Advanced Disaster Relief, a disaster relief company. How are you doing today, Alex?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the opportunity. Feel valued. Look forward to this podcast. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem at all. When we got the email from you, I was really surprised at the amount of things that you have accomplished in your life. It seems as though, let me see, you've made the news a ton of times. You've spoken in front of colleges. You've done disaster relief through 3 hurricanes. You've chased after tornadoes. You've covered forest fires with your photojournalism. It seems like you've done a whole lot of things in your life. How did you get into this activist sort of way of life?
To start off, I think it's a balance and management of time, energy, and money. Deciding where I want to spend my money, my time, what I want to be involved in. I've never really been involved with playing video games or as many sports, or I've gone on a lot of adventures, drank a lot of coffee. I've gone out on different directions as far as sports and activities, involvement in the community with people. A lot of all of this, I think, goes back to networking through just friends and family, and just want to be involved in everything and see as much of the world as possible. I think I first got into this from high energy, riding my bike, skateboarding, being involved in sports, and putting together music video compilations with some of the sports that me and my friends were involved in, whether it's four-wheel driving vehicles, BMX, dirt bike, skateboarding, snowboarding, some of those sports. So I spent quite a large amount of time filming these extreme sports that I put together in a video compilation, and I slowly got involved more into the news media aspect of video production.
What got you into helping others during the aftermath of disasters?
So there was all this extreme sports, this video, photography, wanting to capture images, wanting to record video, and wanting to have something valued, something that everybody wanted to see, that would make me successful, that would help people and benefit people. I ended up working at Channel 2 News in Reno. It was a TV station for a year, as well as SynCat Government Access, which is a government access TV station in Reno, Nevada. I worked at some of those places to support some of my BMX and dirt bike and some of my other videos. It wasn't until 2003, 2004 that there was a lot of fires, and there was fire season in Reno. I started going out and capturing some of these forest fires as like an extreme photographer, since I already had the camera and the equipment, and I started selling it to some of the newspapers, some of the TV stations. Fire season would come around, and I would get really close. I would document some of these fires, and I started getting more intrigued with the freelance photojournalist aspect of capturing these images, and I wanted to do more. So I got involved with political events, landslides, forest fires, floods. It wasn't until 2005 when Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans that I drove my vehicle, my Ford Bronco, from Santa Cruz to all the way to New Orleans to document the disaster as well as the supplies that I brought. So I think that was the main point, the pivotal point in between just some of the extreme sports and some of the stuff that I was doing to just being completely addicted in helping people and documenting these natural disasters. So that was the first major disaster that I covered. That was in 2005. And after that, I started mixing up my portfolio and continued to capture more images, more natural disasters, and more stuff that I felt would help the most amount of people instead of just filming shows and events, the World Series, the NBA Finals, just concerts, parades. Some of the things that I was capturing as a photojournalist, I started realizing the benefit of documenting things that where people needed help, where they needed aid, where resources needed to be, and that's what first got me involved.
So you spent some time in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and you also spent some time in the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, correct. So I studied I studied hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and a lot of this stuff in school. I put myself through Cabrillo College. I took a series of different courses that I felt would benefit and help my career path as a photojournalist. And it wasn't until Katrina did I start taking some courses in emergency management, nuclear, chemical, biological first responder, hazmat first responder. I took the I took community emergency response teams, which was a course that they had at the fire station, a 6-month training course. I took all the Red Cross courses, and I continued to study at Cabrillo for 4.5, 5 years. So I eventually got the training, the level up to where I felt confident being some sort of hybrid freelance photojournalist, environmentalist, humanitarian, to where I'd be able to go into some of these areas. I'd not only be able to document it, but I would be able to help. The first disaster that I covered after Katrina was when I flew into New Orleans after, it was several hours before Hurricane Gustav made landfall. That was in 2008. I documented it, I helped out a little bit, and every one of these I learned a little bit more, what to do different, what to bring, how to be effective, how to help the most amount of people. In 2015, I flew to New York, and I made it right before landfall of Superstorm Sandy in New York, and then later in 2013, I also covered Hurricane Isaac that made landfall in New Orleans. So I kept gaining all this experience from these disasters, from hurricanes, tornado chasing, forest fire, and I finally felt confident to travel overseas. And when that superstorm Haiyan made landfall in the Philippines, I watched it on the news, and it was hard for me knowing that I had the equipment, the tools, and the knowledge to make a difference. And I had some money on a credit card, and I bought a ticket and flew to the Philippines. I was fortunate enough that I landed in Cebu, and I got on one of the first military aircrafts that went into the affected regions, and I landed in Omar, and I met with some local villagers there and took a van all the way across the the island, the Lady Island, to the other side to Tacloban, Ground Zero. And I was able to, firsthand treat hundreds of medical patients. I volunteered in the hospital. I worked with search and rescue teams. Eventually attached myself as a single resource to another group that was doing body recovery for a few days. I had the opportunity to work with the Philippine military, met the mayor, Alfred. It was just an incredible experience, how effective I was to help with the knowledge that I gained and being able to document it, send my footage out to some of the news networks to document if aid was getting distributed unevenly or where people needed the help the most. And that was my first just complete success mission. I was there for 3 weeks, and I eventually flew back to America and saw my shortfalls, what equipment that I did want to replace or upgrade, what I can do different, and additional classes that I can take at Cabrillo. And yeah, that was in the Philippines.
Now, putting all this stuff together, it doesn't seem cheap. How do you fund your projects?
So I've been in school, working on some of these projects, struggling, I guess, like the struggling college student. Watching what I spend money on, since I'm not investing money into, going to a lot of shows, a lot of concerts. I'd rather go camping or backpacking. Just watching where I spend my money is an important part, and I think that's one of the things that's helped me out. The second thing is, when I buy something, I try to buy something that's not cheap. I try to make sure that it's really good quality, it's going to last, it's going to be durable. I'm a minimalist, so I'd rather have less things that are good quality that are going to help me out. So I think some of the first parts are just saving money. I've done a little bit of construction on the side just to make some extra money to buy some extra toys, through Amazon, some new gear, whether it's backpacking, camping, survival, or stuff that's going to help me on some of my missions. The main source recently has been my international survival kit, and I got tired of doing some construction jobs or being frugal with my money. Selling some of my freelance photojournalist and other things. So I created this disaster kit, and I designed it after the superstorm in the Philippines. It's 40 items that I put together. I packaged in this Mylar bag that's refillable. It floats. It's durable. It's a lot of like environmental products to a certain extent. 40 items that are designed to save lives, alleviate suffering, mitigate sanitation and hygiene challenges after disasters, prevent the spread of contamination, disease, and help people just restore human dignity and comfort. I pass out these disaster kits after, natural disasters or homeless people, or they're great for backpacking, camping, Syrian refugee camps, shows, parties, festivals, exploring. I put these kits together that I now sell in, I think, 5 to 7 stores in Central California. And, 4 or 5 stores are on back order. A lot of these products that I put together, I designed so I could hand this one kit, this one survival pack to someone after disaster, and they can use some of the items. I saw people in the Philippines rubbing sticks together for fire. I saw people that were starving, people that had medical injuries. So in my kit, I have toothbrush, toothpaste, Band-Aid, notepad and paper if they need to write down emergency information or if the kid needs to draw. There's a whistle because a lot of women get raped after disasters. There's hand sanitizer, there's a candle, coffee, rubber gloves for medical scenarios, just different things that I put together. A lot of them have multiple uses, are either organic material or biodegradable. And that's been my latest thing. I've been selling large amounts to different aid groups and organizations, and they've been using them for fundraisers. I've been set up in, like, say, farmers market or expos or different events with a table, like a booth with some of my kits. I've been getting them into different stores and selling them on my website, and that's been funding some of my trips.
For the listeners at home, if you go to advanceddisasterrelief.com and click on Survival Kit, you'll see exactly what Alex is talking about. It's the International Survival Kit, and it is amazing. It has everything you need to survive a disaster, it seems. I mean, it has everything from matchbooks to tin foil to tissue packs. It's really an incredible package for anyone in a situation where they need some assistance, guaranteed. Um, so, Alex, this is a lot of activity for just one person to take on. What is it that motivates you and drives you to do all this?
One thing that helps is that I'm high energy. I mean, I get 8 hours of sleep, but when I'm awake, I'm awake. I work on stuff. I'm productive. I like being productive. I like accomplishments. I like accomplishing things. I like doing good in school. I love having things to show for what I've been able to do. And I guess that's what comes down to some of my news articles, some of my projects. Some of the things that I've done around the community is just feeling good about my life, myself, what I've done. I feel like I'm getting older, and there's only so much time to get where I want to be in life. So I think I'm past a lot of the shows and parties and road trips and some of the things that I've done when I was younger. And now I'm focusing on education, helping people, trying to set a good example, make the world a better place. Work on a lot of environmental projects. I'm concerned for, my nephews, my nieces, my friends' children, the world that we're leaving for them, the pollution, some of the problems that we have that future generations are going to have to deal with. So I don't want to be a part of that problem. So I look for solutions, and that takes me being motivated to work on environmental projects, to try to set that good example, to try to make all the differences that I can in myself, whether it's eating organic when I can, whether it's trying to limit the plastic products that I purchase, whether it's picking up trash in my spare time or with groups, for beach cleanups. I try to do everything that I can to offset the damage that other people may be causing, whether that's some of my family members, some of my friends, people that are associated with me. So I try to work that much harder because I feel that there's so many people that aren't. And I think that's what motivates me, is that I've seen so many changes in the environment, in the world, in our ecosystem. I've seen so much pollution in my life covering some of these superstorms where when there's storm surge, it goes into people's garages and their houses and just washes everything into the ocean. And some of these third world countries, when I was in Ghana during the Ebola outbreak, just all of the trash and the pollution that I've seen scattered in all of these places, it's just depressing. And I feel that it's that I want to try to do my part. I guess that's my motivation, trying to do my part.
Now, you had mentioned that you'd also been involved with some environmental projects. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been more and more obsessed, since probably 2005, aftermath of Katrina, 2007, just studying environmental issues, our environmental impact on meteorology, climate issues. I've watched a lot of, Netflix documentaries, which now there's many. I just started to see the change that I can make with organizing people, with doing things in my community. I went to this place called Garden of Eden. It's in Santa Cruz. It's in a redwood forest. It's a popular tourist destination. It's on the river. I enjoyed the water, enjoyed relaxing on the beaches in this river. Later that day, I'm hiking through the redwood forest, just really scenic, beautiful place. I'm by myself, and I see some tires off the side of the train tracks. I ended up walking over and investigating, and there's quite a few tires. I ended up contacting many, many people. Eventually, I got to the county building. They ended up driving up there with me. We assessed the situation, and they said it was county property. They gave me permission to remove the tires. They provided me with 3 full-size dumpsters that are, 8 feet wide, 8 feet tall, 20 feet long. They provided me with these dumpsters as I organized 30 of my volunteers, my own volunteers, through Facebook. And it was last summer. We went up there, and one at a time, me and 30 volunteers, we removed 1,000 tires from the redwood forest that were less than 1,000 feet away from the San Lorenzo River,
wow,
which is
impressive.
Where our city, it was a lot of tires. We filled up 2.5 of those dumpsters. And after all that, I found, researched and studied that our city's been collecting water, 20%. That's where we get 20% of our water source. So we also found out that those tires were dumped there 20 years ago. So that they've slowly been deteriorating and polluting our water for 20 years. There's still a few hundred tires down there. There were some issues that came up with who actually owned the property that's now in the process of, legal issues and EPA and all this other nightmare. Red tape got involved, but I was able to get 1,000 of the tires out before some of those, and I wish that I had more time to spend on that project, but there's in between school and disasters and environmental cleanups, it's just I'm feeling pretty stretched thin. So that project's on hold right now.
Most recently, you went to Nepal. I think we started to communicate before you left.
Yeah.
And while you were gone, there was a severe aftershock or a second earthquake. And the first thing I thought of was you and what happened to you when that was going on. Can you tell us about your experience in Nepal?
Yeah. So I saw the earthquake on the news like everybody else the day that it happened. I know the region of Nepal. I've seen pictures, images of the houses and the villages. I know that they're made out of rock and mud, and that they don't have a lot of tools, a lot of wood, a lot of rebar, stronger reinforced material to design their homes. So as soon as that earthquake happened, I automatically knew that it was going to be a mass casualty situation. There was going to be a huge loss of life. There was going to be a lot of damage and destruction. And I also knew there hasn't been an earthquake there for quite some time. So I ended up doing my fundraiser the next day. I was a little short on funds. That was actually one of the ways how I got money in this situation. All I needed was the amount of money for the plane flight to Nepal, and I was going to donate 60 of my international survival kits and a lot of supplies, aid, water filtration, food, tarps, clothing, all of that. So I ended up getting the money a week later through, I think, 26 donors, family and friends of mine for the plane flight. Before I flew out, I ended up networking, since this is a big part of, disaster relief, with a doctor that owns a nonprofit. He's built orphanages and schools in Nepal. So we ended up working out that we'd meet up once I got to Nepal. We ended up loading all of my aid that I had that night. When I got there, the next morning we left at 4 or 5 in the morning. We rented a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and it took us all day to get to some of the isolated regions of the earthquake epicenter. We made it into the Gorkha district, 4-wheel drove over mountain after mountain, just seeing all this destruction. We were asking some of the people where the most damage was. We eventually found that area. There's 2 villages that we focused on. One of them was Keprun, and the other one is Apun. Both of them are about a half an hour walk from one another, and both of them have about 70 houses. The one village, Apun, had 68 houses that were completely destroyed, crumbled, and one house that was condemned unsafe. Just about complete destruction. There's no aid groups in that region, no military, no police. So we decided that we were going to focus our efforts there. Dr. T, from Ecopolitan, the doctor that I went into that region with, agreed that I was going to stay. He left me there that night, and I was there for 2 or 3 weeks by myself in this village, assisting people, being supportive, treating medical injuries, distributing my disaster kits, distributing aid, food, helping them demolish some of the structures that were damaged, helping them build temporary shelters. Anything that I could to help them move forward before monsoon came. After about 3 weeks, eventually other aid groups started showing up, but it was, I think, around the second, after a few weeks, that's when I was in between Cape Town and Apun, and I was almost to Apun, and I was on the edge of this valley, heat and dehydration, and almost made it to where I was going. I sat down for a few seconds, overlooking this valley and the river, and that's when the earthquake hit. I stood up, and it felt like the ground was moving half a foot, either direction. It was difficult to stand. I looked across to this village, I believe Kingpu, and I saw 2 houses collapse in front of me, and some, dust. And saw a landslide around one of the corners, where I couldn't see the landslide, but I could see all this dust come up. And then I ended up getting my second wind and got my medical supplies. I went over to some of these areas and treated more medical patients. One woman jumped off a roof, twisted her ankle, scraped up both of her knees. Other people just had little minor injuries and scratches, but people were just scared in general. That was the first major aftershock since the first earthquake, the 7.8. And I was right there. I was fortunate that that I wasn't in any structures, say Kathmandu or closer to the epicenter, and the whole region was fortunate that it was further away and that it was lower in magnitude, and that nobody got seriously hurt during that aftershock.
That's good. So it seems as though you've accomplished a whole lot and you've helped a whole lot of people. What are you working on right now? What's the next thing you're going to do?
So after I've realized that it's expensive to pull off these missions, I actually went into Mexico with no money and borrowed $2 to get back over the border. I went to Africa, I think, with like $60. I went to the Philippines with $43. I think I ended up flying into Nepal with like $40 or $50. So I go there with all these supplies, my round trip ticket, and I'm in the epicenter where there's not even anywhere to spend money. Money doesn't even really do any good. So I haven't really needed a lot of money while I'm in these regions. But getting the ticket, getting the flight, going in with more supplies and more aid is important. So I now have enough knowledge of the emergency management and incident command system and how to expand and possibly get other volunteers to go with me, whether it's medics or other people helping with logistics, that I'm in the process of expanding. So I think with this line of work, I have to work on a nonprofit. So I'm in the process of filling out the paperwork and starting a nonprofit. I have a lot of people that want to donate to me. They want to support my mission. They want to be a part of my projects. They want to volunteer for me. And since I haven't been a nonprofit, I've been limited.
If people want to donate money to you, how can they go about doing that?
On my website, Advanced Disaster Relief, there's a PayPal link. On the website, the disadvantage with PayPal and GoFundMe and all those other ways is that I have to pay taxes on all of that. So if I end up starting a nonprofit, I don't have to pay taxes, and I have more access to grants and loans and larger businesses donating, and it's just the whole structure of the business is different when it comes to liability or people volunteering for you or tax deduction and all of that. So right now people can donate, and it all goes back to my supplies and my projects. When I was in the Philippines, I ended up realizing that my international survival kit could help the most amount of people for the least amount of effort. It's similar to MRE, where you could just hand it to someone that has all of those items. I would love to have a stockpile of 5,000, 10,000 of those. And if there's an earthquake or a tsunami or another superstorm, I hope that I have the capabilities to load all those onto a plane, work with the military and the police, the government in that region, and get them to where they need to go. The way that I've designed and structured how those are distributed is solid. I just don't have the funding yet. So I think that like the 60 that I donated to Nepal was just from me selling and reinvesting and just trying to build an inventory. And if it would have if that earthquake would have happened sooner, I would have had less. If there wasn't a natural disaster for some time, I might have had a few hundred. But it took me a while to build up that stockpile. I'm basically completely out of inventory. So I'm going to start over and, I guess some side jobs, sell some of my photography, work on some news stories, do some more freelance photojournalism, and hopefully focus on setting up that nonprofit and speaking in front of more colleges, more schools, more classes, and hopefully there's less natural disasters, and I can continue to get my kits into like camping stores and backpacking stores and, build that up.
To the audience, if you go to advanceddisasterrelief.com, click on Contact. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a donate link, and I highly encourage all of you to check out the website, see the great things that Alekz has accomplished, and definitely donate. Help him move on to the next place that he needs to go to provide relief to people in a disaster. Alekz, I appreciate your taking the time to speak with us tonight. Do you have anything else you want to tell the community?
I am relatively new to Facebook. I've been on Facebook for a year and a half, couple of years. It's amazing what I was missing out on, how it's so incredible for networking, for requesting volunteers, for sending out information, uploading images, working on some of my news stories. So if they add my Facebook and follow me on Facebook, I believe that would help some of my projects, some of my missions, and sending out some stuff that I believe in, information. And I guess that would help me. That would help my projects, and that's what I'd recommend.
All righty, Alekz, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And we'll put links to your Facebook and website in the show notes.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. I'd like to thank Alekz for appearing on the show today. If you head over to advanceddisasterrelief.com, click on the contact section, scroll down to the bottom, there is a PayPal donate button. Alekz is looking to expand his organization, and at the moment he's just a one-man show, so if you're interested in helping Alekz, go to Advanced Disaster Relief, find the donate button, and send Alekz whatever you can. Every week on the Anoncast, we like to feature music produced by the anonymous community. And this week, we have a track by Steve Grant called Greetings, Citizens.
Greetings, citizens of the United States and the world. In an age of constant video surveillance, we must remain ever vigilant to ensure our rights to privacy. As drones are becoming more and more commonplace, it is essential that we educate and prepare ourselves. We are anonymous. We do not forget. We do not forget. Expectos.
Another drone spotted, you're probably looking for me. These strings are getting tangled, now these puppets looking funny. We die for crooked money, surviving through the culling, and try not to become it, but they lying to the public. They flying right above us, but instead we bow. With these iPads in our face, we stay looking down. Look around and you see these human lives tortured. Have to stay awake till this brutal time's over. Psychotropic drugs, suicide soldiers take their own lives while they choose to die for us. Control us, program us, now the plans to have us looking like James Holmes and Adam Lanza. Cram us in hospitals and give us cancer. Body scan us to scan us, put down your cameras and get your hands off of me. Bam, you on the canvas. This ain't the answer to the problem that's at hand. We just need to realize we all have a hand in this. You'd be surprised by the power we have, we can do this. These bankers got a death wish, the fiscal cliff tip, and they blowing their whistles. These whistleblowers, they still whistling. Sandy Hook camera footage, yeah, it's still missing. And while you over there popping mollies, they kill children. Drone after drone, bomb after bomb, but over here it's clone after clone, job after job.
Expectos.
Yeah, there's no such thing as terrorism. Your brain is the only thing that the terror isn't. America's an embarrassment, but I swear if we come together now, we could all take care of this, cause we share the same suffering. So either change something now, or cower and bow and change nothing. Cause lately, these bees ain't buzzing, but genetically engineered mosquitoes still coming.
We have no leaders. You are also the only person responsible for your actions. Do what you think is right. Do not what you think is wrong. How many anonymous are there? We are more than you think. We are more than anybody thinks. We are many. And you are now one of us. Welcome to Anonymous.
This ain't just another echo in the lobby. Try to move around me, I'm a celestial body. Godly with the flow, and you know where I'll be. In the back screaming out, fuck Illuminati. While I'm at it, fuck the Anunnaki. Fuck a Nazi, fuck a commie, fuck a Ponzi. I'm out here killing it, all that I'm giving up. Constitution was written, Obama just rips it up. Yeah, as if these laws ain't strict enough. They try to blow my spot, but the bombs ain't big enough. Balls ain't big enough, raw ain't real enough. The big bad wolf is back and the straws ain't thick enough. Kicking up dust when I'm getting up, cause if I'm tripping or I'm slipping, I ain't flipping out with it, man. I'm twisted when I'm switching it. You listen when I'm spitting, but you missing it, cause you just sitting and getting a buzz. What?
We are anonymous. We are anonymous.
We are not anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous. Expectos. Expectos.
We are not anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous.
We are not anonymous.
We are anonymous. We are anonymous. Expectos. Expectos.
We are not
I
anonymous.
refuse to stay here and be laid to rest with the sheep. not tried enough. Gotta get fired up, cause I'll die for a human. Die for my country, die for your rights. And while I'm dying, what you doing?
Dear brothers and sisters, now is the time to open your eyes. There is something terribly wrong with this country. If you have not yet woken up to the reality of the police state we've been warning you about, I hope you realize we are fast running out of time. Together we stand against the injustice of our own government. We are anonymous. We are legion. United as one. Divided by zero. We do not forgive censorship. We do not forget oppression. Expect us.
Expect us.
That was Steve Grant with Greetings, Citizens. I'm trying to get a hold of Steve. Hopefully we can get him on the show here in the next couple weeks. If you want to find out more about Steve, head over to realstevegrant.com. That about does it for this week's show. Make sure you tune in next week where my guest is Mike Berger of 911truth.org. Until then, have a good week.